Arthur Schopenhauer was not interested in being liked. He was interested in being honest, at least honest in his own eyes. He wrote in a time shaped by rigid social roles, biological determinism, and deep pessimism about human nature. When he spoke about women, he did so through the same dark lens he used to analyze all of humanity, and that is what makes his philosophy so disturbing, not because it is hatred, but because it is cold, reductionist, and unfiltered. Schopenhauer believed that most human behavior is driven not by reason, but by the will, a blind, unconscious force pushing life to reproduce and survive. In his view, men and women were not equal, shaped by culture, but biological expressions of this will, optimized for different roles. Where modern psychology emphasizes complexity, individuality, and social conditioning, Schopenhauer reduced people to functions, and women in his writing became symbols of nature's strategy rather than independent individuals.
This is where discomfort begins. Schopenhauer described women as more emotionally intuitive, more focused on immediate survival and social navigation, less abstract in thinking, and more oriented toward influence than direct power. To him, this was not an insult, it was a biological explanation. But by stripping women of individuality and inner depth, he also stripped them of dignity. And that is where his philosophy crosses from analysis into something deeply troubling. What Schopenhauer was really reacting to was not women themselves, but illusion. He believed men are often destroyed by romantic idealism, by projecting meaning, purity, and transcendence onto relationships that are actually driven by unconscious needs. In his view, women represented nature's mechanism for continuing life, while men were deluded into believing love was something noble and spiritual rather than biological. This framing turns relationships into battlegrounds of deception and disappointment.
But here is the critical point many people miss. Schopenhauer was not saying women are evil. He was saying nature is indifferent, and human beings suffer when they refuse to see that. His error was confusing his personal bitterness, cultural bias, and limited observation with universal truth. He mistook patterns for destiny. He mistook critique of romantic illusion for an objective understanding of women. Modern psychology shows us what Schopenhauer could not see. Human behavior is shaped by biology, yes, but also by trauma, attachment styles, social learning, power structures, and individual personality. Reducing women, or men, to fixed traits is not insight. It is intellectual laziness disguised as realism.
What makes Schopenhauer's writing still relevant is not its conclusions, but its warning. When you idealize anyone, man or woman, you stop seeing them clearly. When you project meaning onto others instead of building it within yourself, you create dependency. When you refuse to take responsibility for your own emotional life, you blame the world for your suffering. Many men who resonate with Schopenhauer today are not responding to women. They are responding to disillusionment, failed relationships, betrayals, rejection, confusion, pain that was never processed. Schopenhauer gave language to that pain, but he also froze it into a worldview, and that is dangerous.
Awareness alone is not enough. In fact, awareness without integration can become dangerous. When a person begins to see patterns in human behavior but never turns that awareness inward, it often hardens into bitterness. They observe, they analyze, they notice repetition and hypocrisy, but instead of using that knowledge to grow, they use it to distance themselves emotionally. They begin to feel superior to what they see. This is how observation, when stripped of humility, turns into contempt. What could have been understanding becomes judgment. Philosophy, when practiced without self-reflection, easily transforms into ideology. It stops being a tool for clarity
and becomes a shield for unresolved pain. Instead of asking, "What does this reveal about me?" the mind asks, "How does this confirm what I already believe?" At that point, thought no longer liberates, it imprisons. Ideas stop evolving, they become rigid, and rigidity is often the result of fear disguised as certainty. True psychological maturity does not come from dividing the world into simple categories of good and bad, victim and villain, angel and enemy. That kind of thinking is comforting, but it is shallow. Maturity comes from the ability to hold complexity without needing to reduce it, to see human beings as shaped by conditioning, experience, trauma, desire, fear, and circumstance, not as fixed types. This includes men and women alike. When we strip people of complexity, we strip them of humanity. Understanding attraction without being enslaved by it is a crucial step in this maturity. Attraction is real, desire is real, projection is real, but awareness means recognizing when we are placing our unmet needs, fantasies, or wounds onto another person and mistaking that projection for truth. Love without illusion does not mean love without feeling. It means love without denial, seeing clearly without needing the other person to complete or validate you.
Boundaries without resentment are another mark of growth. When boundaries are set from anger, they harden into walls. When they are set from clarity, they create space for respect. Resentment often comes not from being mistreated, but from betraying one's own limits repeatedly. Clarity allows you to say no without needing to punish. Distance without bitterness. Strength without hostility. Schopenhauer's philosophy becomes disturbing not because it exposes some secret, forbidden truth about women, but because it reveals what happens when a sharp intellect is shaped by unresolved pain. His observations were filtered through personal disappointment, cultural limitations, and a pessimistic worldview that left little room for integration or compassion. Intelligence, when divorced from emotional awareness, does not become wiser, it becomes colder.
Insight without compassion distorts reality. It narrows vision. It selects evidence that confirms pain and ignores evidence that challenges it. This is how awakening can turn into another form of blindness. A person believes they see clearly, but they are only seeing through the lens of their wounds. What feels like realism becomes cynicism. What feels like truth becomes defense. The deeper lesson here is not about women at all. It is about projection, about the human tendency to turn personal disappointment into universal law, to mistake individual experience for absolute truth, to blame an external group for an internal wound. Responsibility begins when you recognize that your reactions reveal as much about you as they do about the world.
Philosophy reaches its highest form when it remains flexible, when it allows itself to be questioned, revised, expanded. Even the greatest minds of the past were limited by their time, their experiences, and their unexamined pain. Growth requires honoring their insight without inheriting their blind spots, learning from them without freezing where they stopped. Because philosophy is meant to sharpen perception, not imprison it. It is meant to deepen understanding, not replace one illusion with another. And real awakening is not about seeing others more clearly. It is about seeing yourself honestly, without cruelty and without denial.